You need to see this before WWE scrubs it from the internet. What I'm about to show you and explain to you is going to completely shatter everything you thought you understood about the rivalry between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. For years, we've been sold this narrative of two unstoppable forces who despise each other, two alphas who can't coexist in the same space without wanting to tear each other apart. We've watched them main event WrestleMania multiple times. We've seen them beat the living hell out of each other in every kind of match imaginable. We've been told repeatedly that their hatred is real, that their rivalry transcends the business, that when these two men are in the same building, security needs to be on high alert because things might actually get out of hand. But last night, someone caught them on camera backstage, and what that footage shows is going to make your blood boil. Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar were caught shaking hands, smiling, having what appeared to be a very friendly and cordial conversation. And this isn't some old footage from years ago. This is recent. This is current. This is happening right now while WWE is actively trying to convince us that these two men are mortal enemies. So the question that everyone is asking, the question that's tearing the wrestling world apart right now is simple: is this an alliance? Have Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar been working together this entire time? And if so, what does that mean for everything we've watched over the past several years? Before we dive deep into what this footage reveals and what it means for the future of WWE, let me set the stage for you because there are layers to this situation that go far beyond just two guys shaking hands backstage. The rivalry between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar is one of the most enduring and financially successful feuds in modern WWE history. These two have been positioned as the ultimate representation of what WWE believes their main event scene should look like. Brock Lesnar, the Beast incarnate, the legitimate NCAA Division I wrestling champion and former UFC heavyweight champion who brings real combat sports credibility to professional wrestling. And Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the head of the table, the man who was handpicked years ago to be the face of WWE and who finally achieved that destiny after reinventing himself as a dominant heel who rules over the entire company with an iron fist. Their matches have headlined some of the biggest shows in WWE history. WrestleMania 31, where Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank contract and turned their match into a legendary moment. WrestleMania 34, where Roman finally conquered Brock and took the Universal Championship in what was supposed to be his coronation. SummerSlam, Survivor Series, Crown Jewel, the list goes on and on. Every time these two have stepped into the ring together, WWE has positioned it as the biggest possible match they could present, the ultimate collision between the two most dominant forces in professional wrestling. And we bought it. We believed that these two men genuinely couldn't stand each other, that their matches were personal, that the animosity between them was real and deep and potentially dangerous. But now we have this footage, and everything changes. The video, which was apparently captured by someone on the production crew and leaked to social media before WWE could contain it, shows Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar backstage in what appears to be a corridor near the gorilla position. They're not surrounded by cameras. There's no production happening. This isn't a work segment being filmed for television. This is a private moment that was never supposed to see the light of day. And in that moment, these two supposed enemies are shaking hands, laughing together, talking like old friends who are catching up after not seeing each other for a while. Roman has his hand on Brock's shoulder at one point. Brock is smiling, genuinely smiling, not the cocky smirk we see on television but a real, authentic smile of someone who's enjoying a conversation with someone they respect and like. And Paul Heyman is standing right there with them, which adds a whole other dimension to this situation that we need to unpack. Let's talk about Paul Heyman for a second because his presence in that footage is absolutely critical to understanding what might actually be happening here. Paul Heyman has been Brock Lesnar's advocate and mouthpiece for over a decade. He's the one who does the talking while Brock does the destroying. But in recent years, Heyman has also become Roman Reigns' special counsel, his wise man, his strategist and advisor. This created what should have been an impossible situation where Heyman was caught between two men who supposedly hate each other. WWE played it as Heyman choosing Roman over Brock, as a betrayal that added even more fuel to their rivalry. Heyman would cut promos about how he made the right choice, how Roman is the real tribal chief while Brock is just a mercenary who doesn't care about anything except his next paycheck. But now, seeing all three of them together, looking completely comfortable and friendly, it raises some very disturbing questions about what's really been going on. Was Heyman ever really choosing sides? Or was he playing both ends against the middle, maintaining relationships with both men while publicly pretending to have burned his bridges with Brock? And if Heyman has been working with both Roman and Brock this entire time, what does that say about every storyline, every promo, every match that these three have been involved in over the past several years? How much of what we've been watching has been legitimate competition and how much has been carefully orchestrated theater designed to keep us invested while the real story was happening behind the scenes? The implications of this footage are staggering when you really start to think about them. If Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar have been working together, if they've formed some kind of alliance, then we need to reconsider everything. Every time Brock has shown up to challenge Roman for the Universal Championship or the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, was that a legitimate challenge or was it a coordinated effort to keep both men in the main event picture? Every time Roman has talked about Brock with disdain and disrespect, calling him a part-timer who doesn't care about the business, was that genuine heat or was it just playing a role that had been agreed upon in advance? And most importantly, what is the endgame here? What are Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar trying to accomplish by maintaining this facade of hatred while apparently being allies behind the scenes? One theory that's gaining a lot of traction on social media and in wrestling circles is that Roman and Brock have been working together to maintain their positions at the top of WWE and prevent anyone else from breaking through to that level. Think about it. As long as WWE can present Roman vs. Brock as the ultimate dream match, as the biggest possible main event they can offer, then they don't need to build new stars. They don't need to take risks on unproven talent. They can just keep going back to the same well, knowing that people will pay to see these two collide one more time. And if Roman and Brock have recognized this, if they've realized that their best chance at staying on top is to keep each other on top, then forming a secret alliance makes perfect sense from a purely business perspective. This kind of thing has happened before in wrestling history. There have always been top guys who recognize that they make more money working with each other than working against each other, who understand that maintaining their spots at the top of the card requires keeping everyone else below them. In the territory days, the top champions in different regions would often have agreements about how to protect each other's drawing power. During the Monday Night Wars, there were rumors of top stars in both WWF and WCW having back-channel communications to ensure they were all making maximum money. This isn't new. But what makes this situation particularly galling is how effectively WWE has sold us on the authenticity of the Roman-Brock rivalry. They've made us believe that this hatred is real, that these matches matter on a personal level, that we're watching a genuine blood feud play out. The betrayal that fans are feeling right now is palpable. Social media is absolutely exploding with reactions to this footage. People are angry. They feel lied to. They feel like they've been treated like marks, like stupid fans who will believe anything WWE tells them. And you know what? They have every right to feel that way. We invest our time, our money, and our emotional energy into these storylines because we believe they matter. We buy the pay-per-views or subscribe to Peacock because we want to see how these conflicts resolve. We buy the merchandise, we attend the live events, we engage with WWE's content across multiple platforms. And in return, we expect a certain level of honesty and authenticity, or at least the appearance of it. When that social contract gets broken, when we discover that we've been deliberately manipulated and deceived, it damages the relationship between the company and its audience. But let's dig even deeper into what this potential alliance might mean going forward, because if Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are working together, the ramifications could reshape the entire WWE landscape. Imagine if they're not just allies but if they're planning to publicly reveal this alliance at some point in the near future. Imagine if we're building toward a storyline where Roman and Brock come together to form the most dominant faction in WWE history, a group that controls everything and everyone, that can't be stopped by any combination of opponents. With Paul Heyman as the brains of the operation and both Roman and Brock as the unstoppable muscle, you'd have the most powerful stable imaginable. They could run roughshod over both Raw and SmackDown. They could hold multiple championships. They could make and break careers with a single decision. This would actually explain a lot of things that haven't quite made sense over the past year or so. Why does Brock Lesnar keep getting title shots despite being a part-timer who doesn't appear on television regularly? Because he and Roman have an understanding that keeps both of them in the main event picture. Why did certain promising feuds and potential challengers for Roman's championship seem to get derailed or dropped without satisfying conclusions? Because Roman and Brock might have been working behind the scenes to eliminate anyone who could potentially threaten their dominance. Why has Paul Heyman been able to seemingly play both sides without any real consequences? Because he's been the architect of this entire arrangement, the puppet master pulling strings and making sure that his two clients remain the most important stars in the company. And if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, consider this: what if WWE management knows about this alliance and has been complicit in it? What if Triple H, who's now running creative, has been working with Roman and Brock to maintain the status quo because it's profitable and safe? WWE is a publicly traded company now. They have shareholders to answer to. They need consistent, predictable revenue streams. And nothing is more consistent or predictable than Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar main eventing pay-per-views and drawing money. Building new stars is risky. It takes time. There's no guarantee it will work. But Roman and Brock are proven commodities. They're safe bets. So if they came to management and proposed a long-term arrangement where they would continue to work together and keep each other strong, why wouldn't WWE agree to that? This is where it gets really cynical and really frustrating for fans who want to see fresh matchups and new stars getting opportunities. If what we're suggesting here is true, if there really is an alliance between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar that extends to WWE management, then the entire system is rigged. The outcomes are predetermined not just in the kayfabe sense where we all know wrestling is scripted, but in a meta sense where the same people will always be on top regardless of who deserves it, regardless of who's more talented, regardless of who the fans actually want to see. It means that guys like Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and all the other talented performers on the roster are essentially fighting for scraps while Roman and Brock carve up the main event scene between them. Now, we need to address the possibility that this footage doesn't mean what it appears to mean. Maybe Roman and Brock were just being professional. Maybe they were discussing something completely innocuous, like travel arrangements or merchandise sales or any of the thousand mundane business matters that wrestlers have to deal with. Maybe the handshake was just two colleagues being cordial to each other despite their on-screen rivalry. After all, professional wrestlers are actors playing characters. Just because they're enemies on television doesn't mean they have to hate each other in real life. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Mr. McMahon were bitter enemies on screen but were apparently friendly behind the scenes. The same is true of countless other rivalries throughout wrestling history. But here's why that explanation doesn't quite satisfy people who've seen the footage and understand the context. The body language between Roman and Brock in that video goes beyond simple professionalism. There's a warmth there, a genuine friendliness that suggests a much deeper relationship than just two coworkers being polite to each other. The way Roman's hand lingers on Brock's shoulder, the way they're both leaning in and talking quietly like they're sharing something they don't want others to overhear, the way Paul Heyman is standing there looking completely comfortable with both of them together, all of it suggests something more significant than a casual backstage encounter. And the timing is suspicious too. This footage emerged right when WWE is building toward another potential Roman vs. Brock confrontation, right when the rumor mill is churning with speculation about whether they'll face off again at an upcoming premium live event. Is it just coincidence? Or is someone trying to tell us something? Let's also consider what the people who leaked this footage might be trying to accomplish. Someone on the production crew or someone with backstage access made the deliberate choice to film this moment and release it to the public. That's not an accident. That's not someone's phone accidentally capturing something and then oops, it ended up on Twitter. This was intentional. Someone wanted this footage out there. Someone wanted fans to see Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar being friendly with each other. The question is why? Is it a disgruntled employee trying to expose what they see as a corrupt system where the same stars are protected at everyone else's expense? Is it someone who thinks fans deserve to know the truth about what's really happening behind the curtain? Or could it possibly be part of an intentional leak designed to add another layer to the storyline and get people talking? That last possibility is particularly intriguing because WWE has been known to work the internet and blur the lines between reality and fiction. They know that modern fans are sophisticated, that we follow backstage news and rumors, that we pay attention to things like contract negotiations and creative meetings. So why not use that to their advantage? Why not deliberately leak footage that appears to contradict the on-screen narrative, knowing that it will create exactly the kind of buzz and speculation that we're seeing right now? If this is all part of a larger storyline, if we're being worked on a level that goes beyond just what we see on television, then WWE deserves credit for creating something genuinely complex and meta. But it also means that we can't trust anything we see or hear, that there's no way to know what's real and what's performance, and that's a frustrating position to be in as a fan. The wrestling community is absolutely divided on how to interpret this footage and what it means. Some people are convinced that this is definitive proof of an alliance, that Roman and Brock have been playing everyone for fools, and that this leak exposes the truth. Others think it's much ado about nothing, that people are reading way too much into a simple backstage interaction. Still others believe it's all a work, that WWE leaked this footage themselves as part of an elaborate storyline. And the beautiful thing, or maybe the frustrating thing depending on your perspective, is that we might never know for sure what the truth is. WWE isn't going to come out and give us a straight answer. Roman Reigns isn't going to do an interview where he explains exactly what was happening in that footage. Brock Lesnar definitely isn't going to talk about it publicly. And Paul Heyman, well, Heyman will probably give some cryptic promo that raises more questions than it answers because that's what he does best. What we do know is that this footage has changed the conversation around Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. It's impossible to watch them interact on television now without thinking about what we saw in that leaked video. It's impossible to take their rivalry at face value anymore because we've seen evidence that suggests the reality might be very different from what's being presented to us. And that fundamentally changes how we experience WWE's product. Some fans might find that intriguing, might enjoy having to constantly question what's real and what's not, but others are going to find it exhausting and alienating, and they might just tune out rather than trying to figure out what's actually happening. The business implications of this situation are also worth considering. WWE is in a very interesting position right now. They've just completed a merger with UFC under the TKO banner. They're negotiating new television deals that could be worth billions of dollars. They're trying to expand internationally and grow their audience in new markets. And they need their top stars to be positioned as legitimate, credible attractions that people will pay money to see. If the perception takes hold that Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are just working together to protect their own positions, if fans start to feel like the outcomes are predetermined not just in the scripted sense but in the fixes in sense, that could damage the drawing power of matches involving these two. Why would casual fans pay to see Roman versus Brock if they think it's just two friends pretending to fight rather than a genuine competition between rivals? On the other hand, if WWE can successfully turn this into a storyline, if they can acknowledge the footage and incorporate it into an angle where Roman and Brock do form an alliance and run roughshod over the company, that could be incredibly compelling television. The key would be eventually building to a point where that alliance is challenged and ultimately defeated by a new generation of stars. You'd need someone or multiple someones who could credibly stand up to the combined might of Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. This could be the launching pad for creating the next batch of main event stars, the heroes who finally break the stranglehold that these two have had on the top of WWE for years. But it would require careful planning, patient long-term booking, and a willingness to actually pull the trigger on elevating new people even if it means Roman and Brock have to take a step back. And based on WWE's track record, that's far from guaranteed. Here's what really gets me about this whole situation, what makes me genuinely angry on behalf of all the fans who have invested so much into following WWE. Whether this footage represents a real alliance or not, whether this is a shoot or a work or something in between, the fact is that WWE has created an environment where we can't trust anything we see. They've trained us to be suspicious, to question everything, to assume that there are layers of manipulation and deception beneath every storyline. And while that can be fun and engaging when done well, when it feels like we're being challenged to figure out a puzzle, it can also be exhausting and alienating when it feels like we're being deliberately misled and mocked for caring. Wrestling works best when there's a clear good guy and a clear bad guy, when we know who to root for and who to root against, when the emotional stakes are clear and uncomplicated. When everything becomes a question mark, when we can't tell what's real or what matters, it becomes harder to stay invested. So where does this leave us? We have footage of Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar shaking hands and appearing very friendly backstage. We have legitimate questions about whether they've formed an alliance and what that means for WWE going forward. We have a fan base that's divided and confused and in many cases angry about what they're seeing. And we have a company that shows no signs of giving us clear answers anytime soon. My prediction is that WWE is going to try to have it both ways. They're going to continue booking Roman and Brock as rivals on television while allowing speculation about an alliance to simmer in the background. They'll throw out occasional hints and teases that could be interpreted as evidence of them working together, but they'll never fully commit to it being part of the storyline. That way they can maintain the appearance of Roman versus Brock being this huge, important rivalry while also generating buzz from fans who think there's something more going on beneath the surface. But here's what I think should happen, what would actually be best for WWE and for the fans. They should address this head-on. They should take that footage and make it part of the story. Have Roman and Brock come out on television and reveal that yes, they've been working together this entire time. Have them explain their reasoning, have them justify it in a way that makes sense for their characters. Roman could say that he recognized Brock as the only person in WWE who's on his level, the only one who truly understands what it means to be at the top, and that they're stronger together than they ever could be as rivals. Brock could say that he's tired of being used as a special attraction, brought in whenever WWE needs a ratings boost, and that aligning with Roman gives him more control over his career and his schedule. And then use that alliance as the catalyst for building new stars, for creating the heroes who will eventually take them down and usher in a new era. That would be compelling television. That would be a story worth following. That would take this leaked footage and turn it into something meaningful rather than just leaving it hanging out there as an unanswered question that makes people confused and frustrated. But whether WWE actually does that or whether they just ignore the footage and hope people forget about it remains to be seen. What's clear is that this moment, this footage of Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar shaking hands backstage, has changed something fundamental about how we view these two stars and their rivalry. We can't unsee what we've seen. We can't unknow what we now know. And WWE is going to have to deal with the consequences of that one way or another. So keep your eyes open, pay attention to how Roman and Brock interact going forward, and don't believe everything you see on television because the real story might be happening somewhere else entirely.